Hey guys, Ricky Widmer here from Most Valuable Podcast. You're about to listen to a little bit of our primetime podcast that we recorded this week. Make sure to go to Blog Talk Radio / Most Valuable Podcast for our full-length podcast that you can go ahead and download. I hope you enjoy it. I know me and Brandon did recording it. But Brandon, we're going to end the podcast talking about a guy. If you expected us to talk about him, I'd call you crazy because no one was expecting us to do a segment today on the junior wide receiver for PJ Fleck's Minnesota Golden Gophers, Rashad Still. And I'm coming out and saying this, Brandon. I think this year that Still is going to be this year's Corey Davis in college football. And the reason why I think that is this is from Bleacher Report. Fleck said, and I quote, he, talking about Still, has to be the bell cow. Number 88 will get the football, and I told him earlier this week, I said, you can either handle this like a mature man and understand what I'm telling you, that you are going to get the ball and stop working, or you know you're going to get the ball and you change your best and become one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten, end quote. He's going to do it. I think that this is what Minnesota brought PJ Fleck here to do. Shake some things up, get them to where they can compete in the Big Ten, and this is how you start. This is how you do it. Because you look at that Western Michigan team that he had last year, he had a top 5 pick in the NFL draft playing wide receiver in Corey Davis. And this is going to be, still to me, isn't just going to be this year's Corey Davis, Brandon. I'm going to say it right now. He's going to be the breakout player of the year, the one that people go, holy shit, where was he last year? Oh, yeah, that's right. He only had 18 receptions last year because Minnesota didn't want to get him the ball. Because they're going to basically force the ball to, I don't want to say force the ball, that kind of sounds bad. Because they're going to look to him to be the main target, he's going to have a big year, and he's going to do similar things to Corey Davis. And the big thing is, if he wants to man up like PJ Fleck told him.
So he's had 18 receptions in his first 2 seasons.
18 receptions, 349 yards, no touchdowns.
So he's totaled 36 catches total in his Minnesota career. So you're telling me that you think this guy, 6'5", great target, is going to be the Corey Davis who went from a 2-star recruit to a number 5 overall pick. You're telling me that's what he's going to do?
Yeah, and the main reason why is it all comes down to the system. Last year, Minnesota, their passing attack was nothing. It was anemic, Brandon. Now you're taking this 6'5" wide receiver, and you're going to set him into a PJ Fleck offense that lives with the pass, thrives when you have a big target. He's going to thrive in this system. This system is going to help him achieve a level that he would have never gotten last year.
So how many receptions are we looking at? 50, 60? Is that what you're thinking?
Now, the thing with that is, what did PJ Fleck say? His exact words, bell cow. That means to me, almost every single play, you should be looking to this guy. Of course, you're not going to go every play to one guy. The defense will say, oh, let's just double team him. But I mean, I look at last year and Corey Davis had 97 receptions. I'm going to say if he doesn't at least break the 75 reception mark, maybe even the 80 reception mark, then you failed with making him the bell cow. He has to be the guy you go to each and every time if he's open, because if you're going to make him the bell cow, he's got to be your number one.
I think you're on some drugs or something.
No, completely clean here.
He's going from 18-18 to 75-80.
That's why I said this is going to be the breakout season where people go, who? Who's Rashad Still? What, 18 receptions last year? It's going to happen this year.
Yeah, I just don't know about that. I don't know about that. I can definitely see 50 or 60. How many times have we had a coach say, this is going to be the bell cow. This is going to be the bell cow. And then they end up, with maybe 20 more touches than what they had last year. How many times have we heard that, though? PJ Fleck, I get it. I know that offense that he runs. I know he's got that spread offense. I know that he loves to throw the football. But at the same time, if you know that they're going to be going to Still every single time, you're going to cover him that much harder, pay that much more attention to him, draw more coverages over his way. 75-80 is so much. It's such a jump. Now, if he had 50 last year, not last year, not the last 2 seasons combined. Last year, he didn't even have 50 in his 2 seasons combined. But if he had 50 last year and you said 75 this year, I'd go, you know what? They're saying he's going to be the bell cow now. Yeah, I could see that. He's going to jump up 20. You are really shooting for the stars on this one, as you usually do.
This is the segment where I'm being bold. And what it comes down to me
kidding.
is I'm looking at the depth chart right now for Minnesota. And as of right now, I know they haven't named anybody yet, but right now, according to ourlads.com, the starting quarterback looks like it might be redshirt senior Connor Rhoda. I'm putting an N in there when it doesn't have to be. Rhoda.
Sounds like you.
And whoever the quarterback is, could be Rhoda, could be someone else, could be Mitch Liebner. No, he left, so Rhoda. Whoever the quarterback is, basically, they're going to have to do half the work. And when I say half the work, it's obviously not going to be all on Stills because, of course, the quarterback needs to get the ball to the wide receiver. That's kind of how football works. But this offense can feature Still and still just get him the ball and work. And this is PJ Fleck basically saying, I need to find my Corey Davis. Are you going to be him? Are you going to be that receiver that I look to? And the other part of it, it's going to be half on the quarterback, half on Still. Basically, the end of that quote that I read when PJ Fleck said, you got to either handle this like a mature man and understand what I'm telling you, that you are going to get the ball and stop working, or you know you're going to get the ball and you change your best and become one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. That's the 2 ways Still can go. If Still goes, I'm going to get the ball and just not work from here on out, then no, he won't get to the 75 reception mark. He will not be one of the best receivers in the Big Ten, not even the best wide receiver in the Big Ten. He needs to go and say, okay, I'm going to be the man. I got to work like I'm going to be the man. I got to put in the hours. I got to go and up my game to be the best I can for this team, because when the chips are on the table and we need to pass, who's the ball coming to? It's coming to me. Coach said it's coming to me. So that's going to be the big thing of, and of course, this entire podcast, I've said it. It all comes down to when they play the games. This is a lot of speculation on this podcast. Either it's Rosen or either it's Allen. Now it's Still. He's got to put in the work, and it starts now. And I love actually how PJ Fleck coming in, not just saying, you know what, this is going to be our guy, trying to infuse some confidence into a player who only had 18 receptions last year. Because think about it. If you only had 18 receptions and then coach goes, okay, Brandon, you're going to be the bell cow, what would your first thought be? Your first thought would be, me? Coach, I think you got me. I think you got me confused. I only had 18 catches last year. I didn't get the ball. But by him saying this, by him going to Still and saying, it's on you. You can go one of 2 ways here. Kind of bringing out what he wants in his player. It's all going to come down to how does Still react to this, and where does he move forward this season with this?
Well, I think you've got to be obviously mature with it and everything, but I think it's also going to be interesting to see how the quarterback reacts to this as well. Again, a new quarterback, and it's going to be the first time that these guys are working together. I think that that's going to be an interesting thing to watch and see what that dynamic is and what that shapes, how that shapes out. I think there's a lot more factors here. It's a lot more than just saying quarterback's going to throw it to him every time, he's going to catch it every time. No, it is, you're going to have a running game. You've got a new quarterback. Does the quarterback feel comfortable? Is the quarterback going to go to him all the time? Coach isn't out there every time saying, throw it to him, throw it to him, throw it to him, throw it to him, throw it to him. Or if he whiz, you don't have to do it every time, nor can you do it every time. So that's why I'm interested to see how this works out. I think that there's an opportunity for him to be very good. He's going to certainly surpass 18 receptions big time. But
do you think he hits over under 50? Or over under 60, I'll say that. Over under 60 receptions.
I'm going to push. He's going to be at 60.
Okay. That was the big thing. Because at first I wanted to say 50, but then I'm like, you know what? Brandon brought up 50, and then you said 60. So over under 60. You think he's going to be exactly
I'll push
60
I'll
receptions?
push and say he'll be at 60.
I'll ask you this. He had 0 touchdowns last year. How many touchdowns do you think he gets this year?
5.
Only 5 touchdowns?
You think he probably, fucking 12?
No. I was going to say, like, maybe if he has an amazing season, 8 at the most. Like, 7 or 8's a good year for me. Especially
Why are you looking at me like
0.
I'm an idiot at me saying 5?
I just asked.
And then I know you go 5, and then you choose only 2 more. Like I thought you were gonna be like 12.
No, I'm not gonna be that bold. I'm putting all my baskets in the receiving, in the reception game, Brandon. Can't go too high on the touchdowns, but the thing that will be interesting, and this is me kind of playing devil's advocate to myself, is there's one difference between what PJ Fleck saw last year in his conference compared to this year. What's the big change? The conference. He's no longer going up against MAC teams anymore.
He's going up
He's going to be going up against good teams. I mean, this Golden Gopher team is going to be looking at Michigan State, who's going to be looking to come back, Illinois, who is looking to make a second step in Lovey's second year and build that defense. Iowa's on the road. Michigan's on the road. They're going and playing Northwestern on the road. They're playing Wisconsin. They got Nebraska. This is a Big Ten schedule where I'm not saying like, oh, they lose every conference game. And I'm not trying to say that, oh, PJ Fleck's offense can't work in the Big Ten. But that's going to be another thing. Like Corey Davis, he's good. What would he have been like in that offense in a Power 5? Would he have gotten 97 receptions? Would he have gotten 97 in a Power 5 compared to the MAC? I don't know. And that is going to be one of the things that pushes against Still and the Golden Gophers is the level of competition. Now, the good thing for them, the only teams that I think are above and beyond the top of their schedule is Wisconsin and Michigan. Now, I think that teams like Northwestern and Nebraska can give you a little bit of a push, but Wisconsin and Michigan are the two that I look at and go, those are your two toughest conference games this year. They don't have to play a Penn State. They don't have to play an Ohio State. They can wait and maybe see those two in the Big Ten title game, but still, this conference schedule is going to be a lot tougher than anything PJ Fleck saw in the MAC.
I agree with you. 100% agree with you. It's totally going to be tougher. But he knows that. And PJ Fleck, he just seems like kind of the guy who understands that that's how it's going to be and is going to expect that out of his guys as well. Hey, you know what? I know you guys have been here and around, and I've been over here, but yeah, we're going to win because I don't lose. And seriously, he's going to come over. He's got that mentality. He's going to understand that he's coming into a new territory.
Mm-hmm.
But once you are a winner, you don't want to be a loser. So he's going to bring that mentality too, and I think that's great.
And I mean, I look at Minnesota last year, and I know that it's a different offense last year, but they beat Oregon State, a team they got on the schedule this year, and their only conference losses were Nebraska on the road, Wisconsin on the road, and then Iowa and Penn State at home and on the road, respectively. Well, guess what? 3 out of those 4 I mentioned, you're playing again. So Wisconsin will be tough. Nebraska will be tough. Penn State, you kind of swap out for Michigan, so that could be a loss yet again. And then Iowa, you lost to them at home. It was 14-7 last year, but now you got to play them on the road. That's a game that I think they can flip. And of course, it's not like, oh, well, they beat the other teams last year. They're just going to beat them this year. But that is going to be something that I think we look at when it comes to Fleck and his offense, because the Western Michigan schedule last year wasn't as tough as it might have been this year. I mean, I know they played Northwestern. Northwestern had a down year. They beat them by 1. I know they came into my home stadium in Champaign-Urbana and beat my Fighting Illini 34-10. Yeah, it was a big scoring game for my Fighting Illini. But other than that, I mean, Central Michigan blew them out. Northern Illinois won by 15. Akron, you beat them 41-0. You beat Eastern Michigan by a ton, score 52 on Ball State. The only game that they really lost was the one against Wisconsin. Last 2 games were their toughest. Second time they saw Ohio, or the first time they saw Ohio in the MAC championship, and then Wisconsin, the game that they lost. So to me, it comes down to 3 things. First, the quarterback play. Second, how is Still going to approach this season? And then 3, how does PJ Fleck's offense do and how does it perform in the Big Ten? But Brandon, before we get to your final thoughts and end the podcast, any final thoughts on Rashad Still and what we can expect? Is he going to be this year's Corey Davis for the Golden Gophers?
I think that he's got an opportunity to be much better than what he's been last year, but to say that he's going to be Corey Davis is a big stretch, I think. We've seen it obviously happen before. Corey Davis is proof. We'll just have to watch and see.
Well, thank you guys for checking out this video from the Primetime Podcast. If you want to check out more, click right over here. The video's right over here. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out.